We all know how beneficial at least some amount of strength training is for our overall health, longevity, appearance, and physical and mental well-being. Our muscles need to be stimulated regularly to keep the whole organism in flow and to regenerate cells. But when it comes to actually building a consistent routine, many of us tend to move between two extremes. Either we don't train at all because it feels overwhelming, or we train almost excessively but somehow it never feels like enough. And that's because the way we approach training often creates tension instead of relief. Being active and training your body is something that can enrich your life on all levels, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And like most good things in life, it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, quite the opposite. The simplest approach is often the most sustainable one. Of course, the billion-dollar fitness and health industries would like to sell you something different. Overcomplicated approaches that require you to invest in new tools, programs, and supplements, but somehow you never really get further and never feel satisfied. There are endless programs and opinions about the best way to train. Every week there seems to be a new breakthrough method that promises faster results. In one video you're told that this is the next big thing that will change everything. In the next video it's something completely different. But in reality everything is quite simple and mostly common sense. You don't need to study endlessly, you don't need to invest huge amounts of money, and you don't even need to spend as much time training as you think. That's one of the biggest lies you've been told, or maybe the one you tell yourself, that only very long sessions will bring you success. And this mindset leads exactly to the two extremes we talked about. Either you don't train at all because everything feels too much and too complicated, or you train excessively and still don't see results because what you actually lack is focus and recovery. Both approaches are driven by the same thing, a scarcity mindset, a subtle fear that it will never be enough. And this also affects your nervous system. When you constantly feel pressure, whether it's the pressure to start or the pressure to do more, your body stays in a subtle fight or flight mode. And in that state, recovery becomes restricted, because your nervous system never fully sends the signal that it's safe to rest. What most of us actually need is a more balanced approach. One that feels manageable. One where you create enough stimulus regularly for your muscles and nervous system without feeling overwhelmed or stressed. Because the truth is, your body responds to very simple principles. When you expose a muscle to sufficient tension, it adapts. When that stimulus is followed by recovery, it grows stronger. That's the cycle: stimulus, recovery, adaptation. We often interrupt that cycle when we keep adding more. More exercises, more sets, more frequency, more intensity techniques. At some point we start to believe that progress must feel overwhelming, that if it doesn't feel exhausting, it can't be effective. But most of the times adaptation doesn't require more, it requires focus. There's a moment in every workout when the signal has already been sent, the muscle has been challenged, the nervous system has been activated. Beyond that point, extra volume rarely adds real benefit. It mostly adds fatigue, and fatigue accumulates. Not just in your muscles, but also in your nervous system and in your mind. This is why training less can actually be more effective. So what could this approach look like in practice? It can be much simpler than you think. Instead of planning long and draining sessions, you reduce your training to its essentials. 10 minutes of training in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening. Or 20 focused minutes once per day. That's it. You warm up just enough to feel ready, then you perform a few deliberate challenging sets. For example, you might do 2 sets of push-ups and 2 sets of squat variations in the morning, and in the evening 2 sets of pull-ups or bodyweight rows and 2 sets of crunches or leg raises. Another option is to alternate between upper and lower body every other day. The exercise you choose of course depends on your current level. You may watch my exercise explanation video for inspiration. The link is in the description. If you apply this approach, recovery drastically improves, because you're no longer doing long, exhausting sessions that deplete you. At the same time, since you train frequently, you send regular stimuli to your muscles, and progress comes naturally. What really matters is that the sets are intense. You go close to muscular failure while maintaining clean form. You actually feel the muscle working. And once the stimulus is there, you stop. You leave before exhaustion turns into depletion. This doesn't reduce intensity, it concentrates it. When you are fully present in a set, the quality of the stimulus increases. Furthermore, when you know the session is short, you don't drift, your attention sharpens, and you actually stop fearing the workouts because you know they are brief. This helps you enormously in establishing a consistent training routine. The frequent short training sessions also give you continuing energy boosts throughout the day and week. The good feeling after those short sessions is similar to the one after long sessions, just without the depletion. And it comes with the benefit of experiencing that feeling much more frequently. What's also important to understand is that your nervous system does not clearly separate physical stress from mental stress. Long workouts, constant pressure, and the belief that it's never enough can keep you in a subtle state of tension. You might still be training consistently, but something feels heavy. Sleep becomes slightly less restorative, motivation fluctuates, and you feel wired instead of grounded. Training is meant to build you, not to keep you in a constant fight or flight mode. When your sessions are shorter and more focused, you allow the stress cycle to complete. You generate effort, you release it, and you allow yourself space to recover. And this is where this approach connects with mindful strength training. Mindful training is not about making everything slow or soft, it's about awareness. When you train, you're actually there. You feel the contraction, you notice your breathing, you control the tempo. You're not rushing through repetitions, you're not chasing exhaustion, you're not trying to prove something to anyone. You're just creating a clear signal, and then you step away. Over time, this changes your relationship to training. The barrier to start becomes smaller and you become more consistent. And consistency done with focus beats extremes done occasionally big time. When you train less but focus more, you remove chaos. You allow recovery to do its work, you give your nervous system space to settle. And maybe the biggest shift is when you begin to trust that you don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right things with full presence. And that is more than enough. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. If you're interested in training with more clarity and less noise, subscribe to stay tuned for future videos.